Hi folks, I want to put together a short video just to show you how quickly you could come up with a possible solution to where warm water salts, and it doesn't take any research, maybe just a little bit of knowledge about geography, but barely that much, if any. And let's not just focus on warm water halts. Let's focus on the part that says begin it where warm water halts and take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk. I'm not saying that it's one clue per sentence, but let's just take that as three clues in one sentence that together describe what we're looking for in where warm water halt. If you were to go up to anybody, for example, and ask them to name a canyon in the United States, they're probably going to tell you the Grand Canyon, right? I mean, that's the canyon in the United States. It doesn't take any research to know about the Grand Canyon unless you were just born today, or even if you're in another country, you're probably going to know about the Grand Canyon, right? So now look at the part that says begin it, right? So something, let's just assume for now, something begins where warm waters halt. And the warm waters take whatever it is that begins to the canyon down, and we know that the distance from where the warm waters halt to the canyon down is not walking distance. It's going to be far. You're going to have to fly or drive, right? Now, something that begins and goes into a canyon would be a river. That's also keeping it simple, right? So what do we have in the Grand Canyon, right? We have a river. So it could be begin the river where warm waters halts and take the river in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, right? So the next step is, okay, well, let's assume that that's correct. What river begins in the Grand Canyon? Or what river is in the Grand Canyon? Well, the Colorado River is, okay? So if we trace the Colorado to its source, because we're looking for where it begins, we're not looking where it ends up, we're looking where it begins. Your first step would be to go to Colorado. And the Colorado River begins right up here, okay? The Colorado River begins at roughly, if you look down here on the bottom right, it's roughly 10,200 feet, okay? That's also happens to be the top of our search area, correct? Interesting. So we look at the Colorado River. There's really nothing special about it up here. This is not the tallest peak in the Rockies. It is glacier fed. These glaciers, however, are not considered active glaciers, okay? But nonetheless, it's glacier fed. It's cold. So where warm waters ends is where cold waters start. Okay, just think about that for a moment. So the Colorado River, all right, what else? Let's go back up and trace the source further north. What is the main tributary to the Colorado River? Well, the main tributary to the Colorado is the Green River. And interesting enough, the Green River starts at roughly 10,200 feet. Well, and it is also glacier fed, but there's a big difference. Right here is Gannett Peak, which is the second largest mountain in all the Rockies. Now, what Gannett Peak also has going for it is the largest glaciers in the lower 48 states Rockies are right here. So the Green River, and interesting enough, the Wind River and the Poposia River are all glacier fed. Okay, the Poposia River starts down by Circuit Towers, which is here. There are glaciers all the way up around here. These are all active glaciers. This is the highest concentration of glaciers in the lower 48 states. It is also the largest active glacier right here, which is the Dinwiddie Glacier and the Gannett Glacier, okay? And this is Fremont Peak, so all hints to Forrest. So that doesn't really take that much research. So now we have the Green River. Begin the Green River where warm waters halt, okay? And take the Green River in the canyon down. Well, that's exactly what happens here. Not far, but too far to walk. You ain't going to walk this distance. I suppose you could, but you're not going to do it. So Could that be where warm water's halt? Could it be that easy? The key thing, I believe, is not that first part of the second stanza. I believe the key thing is put in below the home of Brown. I do not believe that we are supposed to follow the waters down the canyon. The reason for that is there is no comma before the conjunction and. So when it says begin it where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, the two verbs on either side of the word and are halt and take. And grammatically, it is telling you that the waters halt and take, okay? Take it in the canyon down. It's not telling us to do anything. Begin it where, matter of fact, he's telling you not to do anything because he's telling you it's too far to walk. And you could take any river that starts anywhere in the Rockies, in the mountains, and all of them are going to go into a canyon. And probably, 99% of them are going to have a canyon within walking distance, including these, okay? But he says, not the far canyon, not the far. For example, if you take the Dinwiddie Canyon, okay, it's not far from where warm waters halt, if warm waters halted at a mountain, a snow-capped mountain peak or a glacier. It's not far, but the one we're looking for is too far to walk. So, you've got another case of that here. The Poposia North, Middle, and Little all form up here, right? They all go canyons. The middle one goes into a famous canyon, Sixth Canyon. Okay, but that one is walking distance because people hike to Circa Towers all the time. You're not going to do that hike in one day, unless you're, in really good shape. But it is possible. But if you go to the one that's not far, but too far to walk, you could end up in the Wind River Canyon. And here's Thermopolis. So he could be telling you to take this down, follow the Middle Poposia River. It connects up with the Wind River, comes in through the reservoir, past the dam, and then it changes to the Bighorn River over here. So now you're in the second canyon. This distance is too far to walk, okay? So that's a second example of what he could be talking about. And he could be talking about the same thing up here. The Yellowstone River, right? So the Yellowstone River starts, and the Yellowstone River takes it into the canyon down, right? But, we're not talking about the first canyons up here. We're talking about the Big Canyon, the Grand Canyon. So I think that's what we're looking at. But the point is, if you ask anybody in the United States to name a canyon, they're going to tell you the Grand Canyon. So, and if you look at it as it being something that begins where warm waters halt, it would have to be a river. And the river is going to take it to the canyon down. Okay? But again, I don't think that's the key part. Put in below the home of Brown. Let's just assume for the minute that, I don't know, the home of Brown was Riverton. Okay? So he's just giving you the warm waters halt as a starting point. And the rivers begin here. But he's telling you that not only do the rivers put in below Riverton, because 4 rivers form Riverton. And so it's River Town, a town where that are formed at the confluence of 4 rivers. Okay? So he's saying put in below the home of Brown. So you don't have to go here. You don't have to go down to the canyon. Your only task is to put in below the home of Brown. So you put in below the home of Brown, okay? From there, it's no place for the meek. Well, just off the top of my head, all of this, just north of Lander and then out to probably here, up to here, and then down, and then all around up in here, is the Wind River Indian Reservation. It's no place for the meek. It's a place of the brave, right? The Braves. Drawing nigh could mean go up towards Du Bois. Or maybe it means to go down to this canyon and draw nigh into Kerwin, which is over here. There's only one way in and out of Kerwin. So anyway, I don't want to keep this too long. I just wanted to show you that as an example of keeping it simple, looking at the big picture. And all of this is hinged on two things. One, the most famous canyon. Two, what begins in the mountains is going to be a river. Ask a child that. Rivers form in the mountains. They flow down through the canyons, and then they evaporate in our oceans, and then they go back up into the sky, and then the cycle of water, they come back down in the mountains again, and just repeat that over and over and over. So when Forrest says where warm waters halt, I don't think warm means anything other than not boiling and not cold, not at either extreme. But the key word is halt. And to get a halt, if you look at my other video, water scientifically is defined as halting when it changes to a solid. So that would be a snow-capped mountain. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be a glacier. And there's snow-capped mountains all in the Rockies. And Forrest says that there are many places where warm waters halt, and most of them are north of Santa Fe. Well, Santa Fe and north, there's snow-capped mountains down here. Most of them are north. But there are snow-capped mountains south of Santa Fe, New Mexico. So it even fits that description. I think that people are focusing too much on the word warm when it's just an adjective that essentially means it's moving water. That's why the word waters is plural. It's moving. It can also mean more than one body, but again, that points to headwaters, because headwaters are formed by more than one stream and creek. They all come down from the snow-capped mountains, and they form the beginning of a river. So the river begins. It begins where warm waters halt, and the river takes the warm waters in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. We do not go here at all, right? In this case, we would go to Riverton or Lander, or, maybe you think Homer Brown is the southern border of Yellowstone. It doesn't matter at this point. That's where you're going to go. And your Homer Brown, when you've done enough studying, should be obvious when you've nailed down the exact spot where warm waters halt. But, and I'm not saying that Madison Junction over here is not where warm waters halt. It very well could be. But there are hot springs all over the place. And as Cynthia pointed out, if you're going to take the Gibbon and the Firehole as two warm rivers, which first of all, they're not warm, they're cold, go in them sometime. The only way they're going to be warm is by Ojo Caliente, where Forrest bathed. And even there, he had to find an exact spot where if he moved away even an inch, it was too cold. And if he moved towards the geyser, it was too hot. But that's not precise. Those places exist here, up in the hotter basin, the North Geyser Basin up by Norris Canyon is actually hotter, I think, than down here. But anyway, that's unique. And yes, two waters do terminate and form the Madison, right? However, he said that there's got to be at least one when he said most of them are north of Santa Fe. And like Cynthia pointed out, that case just simply doesn't exist at all in New Mexico. There are not two geyser-fed rivers that come to a confluence and form another river. But there are snow-capped mountains. And remember, wherever warm waters halt, something else is going to begin. So it would be logical that where warm waters halt is either going to be where warm waters begin, or hot waters begin, or cold waters begin. But it can't be hot waters, because hot waters don't halt. They never go to a solid. They vaporize. They dissipate into the atmosphere, and then they rain on down somewhere else. But when water falls on a mountain peak and freezes or turns to snow, it stops in its position. Literally, the molecules halt. They stay, if you look under a microscope, they stay in one spot and they vibrate. They vibrate unless they would hit absolute zero, which doesn't happen, but they'll vibrate. But they do not change position until they warm up, and then they become water again, then they flow right from where they froze. Just like if you took an ice cube and throw it on a counter, it's going to melt. It's going to turn into water right there. But if you take an ice cube and throw it in a hot pan, it's going to melt, vaporize, and disappear. Your pan's going to be empty, and it's going to burn. But you can bring, something and refreeze an ice cube right where it melted, and it's still in the same position. It halted. It didn't go anywhere. And it also didn't stop, and that's important. There's a difference between stop and halt, And look at halt. What is synonymous with halt? Freeze. A cop would yell at somebody. The military replaced. Freeze. Who goes there? Halt. Who goes there? So maybe it's time to start looking at stuff that's cold. And what that's going to really do for you, too, is now your choices become much more limited, because now you're looking for a river that begins in a very, cold spot. And again, it could be the Colorado River. It could be. I have other reasons for not believing it, because I think all three of those clues go together. And I believe when he says not far, but too far, if you look at the word too, along with far, he's saying to an extreme. Because far is already far, but too far is extremely far. So, in other words, no, you're not at the right spot. Don't go to the confluence here. Keep going up to headwaters. So we would end up, and if you wanted to, you can go up the Yampa River in Colorado and check all of them. But you're going to find that this one is unique in a lot of ways that Colorado just does not have going for it. In fact, when they changed the name of the river, this used to be called the Grand River, right? In the Grand Canyon. And it was changed due to politics. It was changed, and they fought over it. They thought the Green River, because it's the furthest point, it should be called the Green River. But Colorado won out, and it became the Colorado River. And the other reason, I guess scientifically maybe, is that the Colorado River is special in that the majority of the volume of water that ends up down here comes from the Colorado River. But distance-wise, it would be the Green River. And it might even be debatable about the volume of water these days, because the Colorado River forms at the Grand Ditch. And the Grand Ditch was a project that they created to route water that would normally drain west of the Continental Divide to drain east, because they have severe water problems. And this is where the largest population is in Colorado. It's on the east side, and so are the farms and stuff. Okay, most of the west is all wilderness. And as a result of doing that, if you look at history, the Colorado River, when it gets down into New Mexico, actually dried up. It turned into a desert down here. There's no more water. It had a tremendous impact. And that, along with the fact that Nevada was where they take from that river, it was not designed to handle the amount of volume due to the population explosion that happens down here. So these rivers are important. So here we got a really quick solve. Okay, it wasn't 2 minutes, but look, we got a famous river, the Green River, and we got a famous canyon. And it didn't take long to come up with that, right? I'll talk to you later.